So yesterday, before I was even done publishing yesterday's video, and what was that video? That video was judgment for Israel, or mercy for Israel. Which side are you on? You know, I spent the whole video making the case that Yehovah has mercy upon who he has mercy upon. Paul went over that with the Romans, and that it is not our place to say yes or no to that. It is our place to be thankful for it if we receive mercy, and if somebody else receives mercy, to maybe, instead of lashing out at the one who receives mercy, to ask for the same mercy instead. But no sooner than I start uploading this video, I get hit with the same stunt. People use the same technique to try to trick me, as if it's never been tried before. Why do you people keep doing the same thing over and over and again, thinking that I have not read the scripture? So what is this stunt that people like to pull? That is throwing a chapter and a verse, but the verse itself at me without context. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. The verse is this. In verse 11 of Romans 2. For there is no respecter of persons with Yehovah. Right? That means in their minds that our Father in heaven must treat each and every person equally. That's not what it says. It's not what it says. If they would have bothered to read the previous verses, starting in verse 9, for example, to get context, tribulation and anguish to every soul of man that does evil, of the Jew and also of the Gentile. Is that what it says? No, it does not. To the Jew first and also the Gentile. Now, why the Jew first? Why ask why? To the Jew first and also the Gentile, which means to the Jew first and then to the Gentile second. And of course, now, just to dig a little deeper, I mean, it doesn't change meaning or anything like that, but let's get context here once again. To Jew first and also of the Hellene, Western civilization. Yeah, that digs a little bit deeper, doesn't it? So if tribulation and anguish falls upon every soul of man that does evil, of the Jew first and also of the Hellene second, then if the Jews' holy place, if the Jews' big city, Jerusalem, became dealt with tribulation and anguish, that means that which the cities which the Hellenes hold dear to them must also suffer tribulation and anguish. That time is coming, as I keep saying. Then it says, but glory and honor and peace to every man that works good, to the Jew first, or before the Gentile. To the Jew before. You see? You see that word? To the Jew in the first place, before. Before the Gentile. So the Jew is going to be rewarded before a Gentile. There's no respecter of persons with Yehovah. Now, to the Gentile, that's being a respecter of persons. They are not willing to say that this is right. That's the reason why they will not read verse 9 and 10, but they will only read verse 11, because verse 11 by itself, without context, they could use that scripture, use that verse to support their false narrative. But if you add verse 9 and 10, suddenly their false narrative falls apart. You see. Now, Paul is talking to the Romans as Hellenes, because the Romans were Hellenized. Okay, so he was telling them, look, the Jew is going to get the reward first, just like the Jew is going to get tribulation first. Okay? So the Jew got their tribulation in 67 to 74, and then it continued for nearly 2,000 years. Tribulation upon the Gentiles is coming. Now, remember, please do not twist around what I am doing here. Paul is speaking exclusively to the Romans here. Now, before Yehoshua's death, his mission was to all the tribes of Israel exclusively. Let me show you something. Matthew 15, verse 24. I need to go to Strong's Concordance to stop this Jesus nonsense. Then Yehoshua, he was Hebrew term Yehoshua. That's what his name was. That's what he was given. He was not given the name Jesus. All right, now we'll continue. And then Yehoshua went there and departed into the coast of Tyre and Zidon, where Tyre and Zidon the Canaanites. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out from the coastlands and cried unto him, and saying, Have mercy upon me, Adon, son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a demon. And he answered her not a word. So you want to continue to throw at me your false narratives about equality? And his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she cries after us too. But he answered and said, I am not sent to but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And that's proven in Scripture. It's proven in the prophet Isaiah. And then she came and did reverence to him, saying, Adon, please help me. But he answered and said, It is not right to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. There was respecter of persons here. Am I saying that Paul was wrong? No, I'm saying you are misinterpreting what Paul said. Paul was saying in this way there is no respecter of persons. To the Jew first, and to the then also to the Gentile. To the Jew first, and also to the Gentile. But until the death of Moshiach, did it change from this children's bread and the dogs. Why? Because it is written in Isaiah. Isaiah 49. So the entirety of Isaiah 49 talks about the suffering servant. How does it talk about him as being a suffering servant? Well, first of all, it says that Yehovah has made and this is, since Isaiah is a prophet, he was speaking future tense. Has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand, he has hidden me. So he was hidden. Nobody knew about him, not even the angels. He was hidden. And made me like a polished shaft, in his quiver has he hid me. And said unto me, you are my servant, Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Then I said, I have labored in vain and spent my strength for nothing. This is the suffering servant. Yet surely justice is with Yehovah, and my work with my Elohim. Let's go again and go to Strong's Concordance. But after the servant suffered, you see, after he said, I have labored in vain, I have spent my strength for nothing, and in vain. But Yehovah said this, he's the one that formed you from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Israel will be gathered and will be glorious in the eyes of Yehovah. But he said, after the servant suffered, he said, that's not enough. That's not enough. He said it is a light thing. It is a trifling thing. The word is kalal. Folks, you have to understand, Gentiles, this is an afterthought. That you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore or to return the survivors of Israel, and to guard and keep Israel. I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles, that you may meet my salvation to the ends of the earth. Now, wait a minute. But the two missions are different. They're not equal. You all need to stop this equality nonsense that you're trying to throw at me. It's not going to work. I will disprove it with Scripture every time. There are two missions here. And it's after the fact. The second one is after the fact. The first one always was to be, as it is written in Deuteronomy 30, to bring back all Israel back to and watch over Israel. Watch over the people of Israel, bring them into the land of Israel, and watch over them. The second one is to be a light to the Gentiles. Does it say, gather the Gentiles to become spiritual Israelites and to replace Israel? No, it does not. In fact, as I pointed out in many scriptures before, Isaiah 66, Romans 11, the story of Rahab, the story of Ruth. A Gentile must be grafted in among the branches of Israel for salvation and become an Israelite, become one of them. But you Gentiles, you don't believe it, you don't consider it. And there are even those who call themselves Jews which makes me wonder, but I don't know, why they would ascribe to this same false narrative. So there are two different missions here. To raise up the tribes of Jacob and to return them back to Israel and to watch over them. That was the first part of Yehoshua the Mashiach mission, his mission. The second part is, I will give you for a light to the Gentiles, that Yeshua, after Eretz, or beyond the Eretz, beyond the land of Israel. All right? Now it goes further. It says, thus saith Yehovah, the Redeemer of Israel, the kinsman Redeemer of Israel, the Kodesh, man despised, the Gentiles abhorred, from a servant to dominion. He will be made from a servant, a lowly servant, to great dominion. You see, King James people did not know how to translate. But I'm using Strong's Concordance along the way to point these things out. Kings will see and arise. What kings? Well, these are the kings of the Gentiles. These are rulers of the Gentiles are going to arise. Chieftains, captains will bow down because Yehovah is faithful. The Holy One of Israel has chosen you. Now this whole Isaiah 49 is talking about, it says, saith Yehovah, in an acceptable time to testify, on a day of salvation. So there is going to be a day of salvation, a day of Yeshua. Yeshua means salvation. Yehoshua means Yehovah is salvation. Will I help you, and I will preserve and give you, or set a covenant for the people to establish the Eretz, to cause to inherit the desolate heritages. This is talking about Israel again. So Yehoshua is a covenant for the people of Israel, as it says in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. So that all those prisoners that are held captive in foreign lands will go forth, and those that are in darkness will show themselves. And they will feed in their pastures, in their own pastures of Israel, and they shall be in their own place, their own height, Jerusalem. They shall not hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat nor sun smite them, for he will have mercy on them. And will lead them by the springs of water. All right. They are going to come from afar, and they're going to come from the north and from the west, and from, it says, the lands of Sinim. Just means the east. Now, so salvation to the ends of the earth for the Gentiles was an afterthought. It was not equal. I've shown this to you with the scripture where it says, I have not been sent but the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Only after the suffering servant suffered would he be light to the Gentiles. But the two missions are different. I keep telling, and people are not listening. But see, here's the problem with you people who refuse to listen. That's not going to change anything. You refusing to believe and refusing to listen is not going to change the outcome. The outcome is going to be exactly as is written in the scripture. Now, let's see here. Now I'm going to go to this parable of the vineyard workers. And none of your preachers have ever talked about it correctly. And today I'm going to attempt to dig in as deep as I possibly can into words so that we will know what he was saying here. Matthew 20 verse 1, for the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man who is a householder, a master of a house. What house? House of Israel. Remember what I just said. While he was, before he was killed, his mission was only to the people of Israel. That's it. So, with that in mind, we continue. Which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard. He had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, and he sent them into his vineyard. In the morning, one could assume it was the first hour. I will go to John 11 verse 9 real quickly, and he says right here, are there not 12 hours of daylight? All right, so we got some context here. So back in those days, the standard was 12 hours of a working day, 12 hours of daylight. Then he went out about the third hour, and he saw others standing in the marketplace, and said unto them, go you also into the vineyard. Whatsoever is right I will give to you. Wait a minute. Did you notice anything? He didn't say he's going to give them a penny. He just says whatever is right. The first group, the very first, it says, for a penny a day. The second group, he says, whatever is right, I will give to you. And they went their way. Verse 5, and again he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour and did the same exact thing as what? The first hour? No. The second hour. Don't be confused. He didn't tell the second hour and the third hour or the 6th hour and the 9th hour a penny. He did not say that. He just said, I'm going to pay you whatever I think is right. They agreed. Now about the 11th hour. Now what did we learn? That there are 12 hours in a day. Now about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing idle, and said unto them, why are you standing here all the day idle? And he said unto him, because nobody has hired us. And he said unto them, go into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right, that you shall receive. Then when he was come, then when evening was come, the master of the vineyard said unto his steward, call all the laborers, give them their hire, beginning with the last unto the first. So start with the last group. So he's going to reward the last group first. Interesting, don't you think? For those of you who don't study your scripture, this might just go right over your head, and I don't know if I can help you understand it. You know, the resurrection from the dead 1,000 years later. But anyway, let's continue. Beginning from the last to the first. Why didn't he pay the first ones first? Well, the answer is in the end of this parable. So the last ones are going to get paid first. They're going to get their wage first before everybody else does. And when they came that they were hired at the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. Now, it doesn't say anything about those of the 3rd hour, the 6th hour, the 9th hour. So it makes no mention except for the fact that they got theirs too. It only talks about the last group and the first group. And when the first group came, they supposed that they should have received more, and they likewise received every man a penny. And when they had received it, they murmured against the good men of the house, saying, These last have only worked 1 hour, the last hour. Do you know what the last hour is, folks? The hour of temptation. The last hour is the hour of temptation. Okay, it would be in, I don't know why I didn't bother to go to Revelation 3, because that's where it is. Revelation 3. And he's speaking to the messenger to the church in Philadelphia. And it also says right here at the bottom, he that has an ear and listen to what the Spirit says to the churches. It says, verse 10, because you have kept the word of my patience, I will also keep you from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Hour of temptation means this: calamity, affliction. An hour of affliction. Well, to find out more about this hour of affliction, you have to go to Daniel 12, verse 1. And at that time, Michael shall stand up, the great czar, chief, which stands for the children of your people, Daniel's people, Israel. And there will be a time of adversary, straits, distress, the hour of temptation. All right? There shall be an hour of distress, or time of distress. And it does not say, this right here is 1471. It is one word in Strong's Concordance, Goey, the Gentiles. There will be a time of affliction upon the Gentiles. And at that very time, your people will be delivered, everyone found written in the book. Now, and it says, and many of them sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now, I want to stick right here. Your people shall be delivered. So this time, the last hour, the hour of temptation is the time of affliction upon the Goy, upon the Gentiles. All right? So now we're getting somewhere. That's what this last hour is. So now you get some context once again. Now, these have wrought but only 1 hour, and you made them equal unto us. Here we go with this word equal again. And you know what Yehoshua has to say about that? Listen carefully, folks. Who you made them equal unto us, which bore the burden of the heat of the day. But he answered one of them and said, Friend, I did you no wrong. Didn't you agree with me for a penny? Take yours and depart. That's what it says. Take yours and depart. I will give unto this last even as unto you. Is it not lawful for me to do with what I will that belongs to me? Is your eye evil? Is your eye evil because I am good? Because he is what? Intrinsically good and good in nature? Is your eye evil because he is good in nature? Equal, you say, huh? When you say equal, you don't mean it. No, you don't. So, for this reason, in this way, the last generation shall be first, chief, principal, most important. Now come at me with your equality thing again, respecter of persons and business again. Come on, let's see what you got. You got nothing. The last generation is going to be the principal, the most important generation. That's going to be the generation whom Yehovah calls, as per Yoel 2. And the first generation, the generation who saw Yehoshua first, shall be the least. The last extreme. For many called and few chosen. We just said the first one is going to be chief. I mean, the last generation is going to be chief first. And I get people showing me pictures of the abominations taking place in the land of Israel today and claiming to me that Israel today is going to be rejected using those pictures. And I have said over and over and over again, using Paul's words, even in my last video, Yehovah is going to have mercy upon who he chooses to have mercy. I probably should go back there again. I'm trying to remember which one that was. Was it? It was either Romans 10 or 8. I can't find it here. Yeah, it's Romans 9, verse 15. While you guys are talking about equality all the time, Romans is reminding everybody that Moshe, what was it? That Yehovah said to Moshe these things here. Verse 15, for Yehovah said unto Moses, I will have mercy upon whom I will have mercy. And you or I have nothing to do with that selection process. If he says the last generation is going to be first, then the last generation is going to be the chief, going to be the chosen generation of Israel. Don't go around and sending me pictures of your sodomite friends trying to prove me wrong. And I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So why is he going to have compassion upon an unrighteous generation that might even be more unrighteous than the first one? Because he said so. Have you ever thought about that? Now, you will say then to me that you find fault with this particular scenario. You may say to Paul that you find fault with this scenario. Who withstands his will? No. To the contrary, O man, who are you? Who are you to reply against Yehovah? Who are you? You're no better than them. Without mercy, my reward, my end, will be no better than that of Sodom and Gomorrah. I know this. What's wrong with you? Why can't you figure that out? But see, those living in Israel today, and even many of those who go and run around with their rainbow flag in Israel today, are going to believe after Yehovah saves them with Yehoshua. Many of those will believe. What was wrong with the scribes and the Pharisees and the chief priests of the day that Yehoshua was there? He was with them, healing people, proving he was the Messiah, and they did not believe him. So Yehoshua is going to be sent again to do these great works, and many of these sodomites in Israel are going to believe. I didn't say all of them will. I can't make that prediction, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that none of them are going to believe. Belief is obedience to the truth. The chief priests and the scribes and the Pharisees were rejected because of their unbelief. According to the way some of you think, Rahab should not have been invited to come along with the people of Israel. Rahab should not have been saved, according to some of your judgments. Some of you people who email me and try to bring your case. And I say to you, it's none of your business. Me, on the contrary, I'm very happy that Rahab's life was spared. In fact, I'm very happy that not only was her life spared, but her mother, her father, her sisters, her brothers, her aunts and uncles, and her cousins were all in that whorehouse in Jericho when Jericho fell down, and they were all saved. So who are you? Who are you, O man, who finds fault with Yehovah? Who are you, O man, who resists his will? Who are you that replies against Yehovah? So don't be throwing your false narratives at me, taking portions of Scripture and removing the most pertinent part of the Scripture and throwing only one part of the Scripture and your false narrative at me, thinking that I won't have a comeback, because I most certainly will. And you will not be able to cause me to change my mind concerning this. You can't do it, so don't even try. Just go away. Don't send me any emails anymore if this is the way you're going to converse with me. I will not speak to you. Mercy. The more people who get mercy, the better, as far as I'm concerned. But it's not for me to say who gets mercy and who doesn't. Wasn't Rahab enough? Why did her family have to get mercy too? What did they do to deserve mercy? It was Rahab, after all, who went and hid the Israelite scouts. What? Yeah, I need to go there. I just need to go to that scripture. I need to ask the question, what did they do to deserve mercy? So I'm going to first go to James 2:25, and it says, in the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? Okay, fine, then spare her, Rahab the prostitute, because she had faith, right? That's enough. Should not have had any more be saved from Jericho, right? Wrong. Wrong. Yehoshua chapter 2. And you know the story. Here we go. Well, I might have to read the whole thing. And Yehoshua, son of Nun, set out to Shittim, 2 men to spy secretly, and said, go view the land, even Jericho. And they went and came to a harlot's house, came to the whorehouse of Jericho, named Rahab, and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, there came 2 men there to the night of the children of Israel to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, Bring forth the men that are come to you, which are entered into your house, for they be come to search out all the country. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, Here come men unto me, but I don't know where they went. And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whether the men went out, where they went, I have no idea. Chase after them quickly, and then you can overtake them. But she brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they pursued after them, and they were gone, they shut the gate. And before they were laid down, she came up to them up on the roof, and said unto the men, I know that Yehovah has given you the land, that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land is faint because of you. We have heard how Yehovah dried up the waters of the Red Sea for you, and how you came up out of Egypt, and how Yehovah had done all these great things, right? And then she says, As soon as we heard these things, our heart melted, neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For Yehovah Elohim, he is Elohim in heaven above and earth beneath. Therefore, I pray you, swear to me by Yehovah, since I have showed you kindness, that you will also show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token. Since I have showed you mercy, show me some mercy. And to my father's house. She was not satisfied with herself. Save my whole family, please. And that you will save alive my father and my brothers and my sisters and my mother and all that they have and all their children, and deliver our lives from death. And the men answered, Our life for yours. If you utter not this our business, if you don't say a word, and it shall be, when Jehovah has given us the land, we will deal kindly and truly with you. Now, she let them by a cord through the window, for her house was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall. And that's how they were able to get out the gate. She said unto them, Go you to the mountain, so that the pursuers don't meet you, and hide yourself there in the mountains for 3 days, until the pursuers be returned, and afterward you may go your way. And the men said unto her, We will be blameless of this oath in which you made us swear. He's saying, we're not going to be at fault if it doesn't happen. This is what they said. Behold, when we come into the land, you shall bind us this line of scarlet thread in the window, which you did let us down by, and you shall bring your father and your mother and your brothers and all your father's household home to you. How many wives did his father have? How many people did she stuff in there? And it shall be that whosoever shall go outside of the door of your house into the street, his blood shall be upon his own head, and we will be guiltless. And whoever shall be with you in the house, his blood will be upon our head, if any hand be upon him. If you utter our business, then we will be quit of your oath, which you have made us to swear. If you say a word about this, the oath is no longer binding. And she said, According to your word, so be it. And she sent them away, and they parted, and she bound the scarlet line in the window. Now, now we go to the crossing of the Jordan. 12 stones of the Jordan, circumcision at Gilgal, the walls of Jericho. Verse 22 of Yehoshua 6. But Yehoshua said unto the two men that had spied out the country, Go to the harlot's house and bring out that woman and everything that she has, as you swore unto her. And the young men that spied went in and brought out Rahab, her father, and her mother, and her brothers, and all that she had. And they went out, and all her kindred, all her kindred, all her kindred. And left them outside the camp of Israel, while they burned the rest of the city with fire and killed everyone in the city. Now I have a question to ask you. What did her father do? Nothing. What did her mother do? Nothing. What did her brothers do? Nothing. Except go in the house with her at her word. You see, Yehovah, and obviously the spirit of Yehovah was all upon these two men. They were, for them to say such a thing and for Yehovah to honor it. So Yehovah's mercy is greater than ours. This is the reason why Yehovah is much more trustworthy with the subject of mercy than any of us are. By man's standards, her father and mother and sister and brothers and all them, they didn't deserve. She was the one who carried out the act of faith. We just read in what was it, James? She was the one who carried out the act of faith. It wasn't her father, her mother, her sisters, or brothers, but they were saved too, along with her. Don't question the mercy of Yehovah. Don't do it. When this generation of Israel is saved from their sins, don't question Jehovah's mercy. Because if you do, you might not get any.